Welcome to another segment of the BYU Management Society's Learn from Professionals initiative. Our goal is to provide guidance to young adults that are either exploring various careers or ready to jumpstart a career. Today, we have an opportunity to learn from a seasoned professional in the emergency services industry, Mr. Jess Kruckeberg. Jess is an operations battalion commander with the Colorado Springs Fire Department in Colorado Springs, Colorado. He has been with the fire department for 28 years and works in the broadly defined emergency services industry. He began his career as a firefighter, EMT, and has held many roles in the department since. Jess likes to say that if you have an event or an emergency and are not sure whether to call a plumber or a cop, call the fire department. He grew up in Jackson, Mississippi, and at that time had no inkling that being a firefighter was in his future. After high school, he attended Colorado College in Colorado Springs, and this became his hometown for the past 30 plus years. As a member of the fire department, he has responded to thousands of emergencies of all different kinds. Some events are very serious, such as structure fires and heart attacks, but others may include minor traffic accidents and lost hikers. A duty shift is never boring. When not on duty, Jess enjoys spending time with family as well as working out, hiking, mountain biking, and reading. Jess is always willing to share with the others the great work of the fire department and to give back by bringing interested people into the world of first responders and firefighters. So Jess, thank you for your willingness to share your expertise with our viewers.
You bet, Scott. That was a great intro. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
So tell us a little bit about what made you decide to pursue a career as a firefighter.
I know looking back, and it certainly was a while ago, and might be for some of your viewers. I can appreciate, the fact that you and I are, kind of older, maybe above middle-aged folks who are working through our careers, maybe in the kind of the latter part of our careers. But at one point, we were young and getting involved in the industries that we're in. Um, as I said, I grew up in just a great middle class family in Jackson, Mississippi, and did not have any idea that first response, firefighting, being an EMT or a paramedic, had no idea uh, what those jobs were like. Didn't have any family members that had done it. So really, how I got my first um, inclination was actually on a spring break trip. I'll tell a quick story. It's really the origin story that got me thinking about this. I was a sophomore at Colorado College doing the academic work. I worked on a Bachelor of Arts in psychology. And certainly I like that area. Um, but I also, at that time, going back when I'm, late teens, early 20s, I like teamwork. I like being physical. I was a very hands-on person. I liked doing physical jobs. It was important to me to work within a team format and that kind of had a noble purpose. Something that contributed, I guess, to the group or the something bigger than myself. I knew those kind of basic tenets about myself. And we were doing it's a spring break trip, and about 10 of us took an RV from here down to Texas for this spring break trip. And during a portion of that road trip, it was early in the morning in Texas, and we were all asleep. My friend was driving, Jeff. Jeff had grown up in Bethesda, Maryland, and he had been a volunteer firefighter in Bethesda, Maryland, right there outside Washington, D.C. And by hanging with him and being friends with him, I had just talked about some of the things he had done and what that was about. And then flash forward to this trip that we're taking, bunch of young people, and we come across this really bad wreck early morning in Texas. And there are a lot of people that got ejected out of this vehicle that had obviously flipped and gone down the highway at a high rate of speed. And it wasn't pretty. Well, my friend Jeff stopped the vehicle, the RV. He woke us all up. We all get up, and then we go out, and he goes, "Hey, we're going to have to do some things here." And he starts assigning us to different people of these patients, these victims. And hey, you hold this, you do this, you go just comfort that person, you go hold that person's head. And when it was done, when the whole event was done, there had been several state troopers had arrived, a helicopter had landed, and other medical professionals. We're back in the RV, continuing our trip. And as I'm processing that, I'm like, "Jeff, what was that?" And he goes, "Well, that was triage. That was emergency medical care. Those were all things that he had done as a volunteer firefighter." I'm like, that really, the light bulb came on for me as something that I wanted to be involved with. And that's kind of when I started my journey of getting information about fire departments and how do you apply and what do they do. And I started focusing in on trying to get hired on.
Wow, that's terrific. So you've had a lot of roles. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about some of those roles, and you're an operations battalion commander. So that sounds very important to me.
Yeah,
Um, so tell us a little bit about what's helped you to become so successful in your career.
I think, I think the fire department is unique in that, you know, when you first, it has a lot of physical, and I'm going to use the word blue collar components. There's a, there's lots of education and training. There's base level certifications that go into being a firefighter really across this country that are nationally recognized.
Mhm.
There's tons of learning, book work, and there's tons of hands-on. There's skills execution. You have to learn all the equipment that when you see a fire engine or a truck go by uh, in your state or in your country for that matter, it's loaded with tons of equipment. It's a huge rolling toolbox, and you have to learn how to use all the tools, how to use those tools in the confines of a team. What's your role within that team? Um, and how do you then execute what you're supposed to do, playing in with the other parts of that team. um, so I think what makes you successful there is the awareness of being a good follower, being a master of your craft. I think staying humble, especially as you start moving through the organization and taking on different roles into leadership. I think being humble and kind of as a springboard to recognize that you don't know everything. And that also, like any industry, it changes. It's different now. We've had way more science, and there's been more plastics introduced into our environments that burn differently. If you think of right now, lithium-ion batteries, cars that are electric, all those offer different challenges uh, than other vehicles. So there's this constant learning as new technology comes into our world. How do we fight the fires? How do we um, keep keep ourselves? I'm going to use the word safe, but I really mean more risk management. The job is inherently not safe. Um, so I think staying humble uh, in terms of recognizing that you don't know everything, you've got to keep learning. And I would also say, the day you stop learning something is probably the day you should retire.
Right.
Maybe that's good for any industry.
I, I agree. So, Jess, can you tell us a little bit more? Certainly, you've had some mentors during your career. What's the best career advice that someone's offered you?
Whew. I think some of it, and the best advice I ever got actually, and this is, and I'll segue off of it, is really rule number one is show up.
Mhm.
If you have an interest in something, even just an inkling that it might be interesting to you, show up. And by that, I mean, start researching it, start leveraging, your friends and relationships, professional or personal, to try then to meet people to get a better understanding of what's it really like to do what they do. So if you're
Mhm.
interested in, being a physician, you know, talk to physicians, young and old, and find out, talk to med students. If you're interested in being a financial advisor, talk to people in that sector and find out what that's like. What does the initial work look like? And then what's the career progression potential? Um, and show up and do some of that work. And then, in the case of firefighting, if you were to secure a position as a firefighter, show up every day, wanting to make a positive difference in people's lives, wanting to learn something, show up physically fit. Some, as you know, some careers have different levels of physicality. And I can tell you, firefighting, being a police officer, other trades, you rely on your body over, 25 or 30 years to do the good work that you do. So
Mhm.
you've got to maintain that as well. So I guess rule number one would be show up. Best advice I ever got. That was from my dad.
Yeah, I like that. That's great advice. Um, so can you tell us a little bit about the work that you do as a battalion commander?
Whew. Could I actually could I back up and just
Sure.
talk about kind of the beginning?
Okay.
This isn't I want to, fire departments across the country are different. Not every fire department is the same. The Los Angeles Fire Department will have a different culture and ethos than, say, the New York Fire Department. And some of that is based on how long they've been around. It's also based on the types of buildings and the types of construction that they deal with, how old the city may be and historic, that's going to have different, challenges to it than, maybe something like Colorado Springs or Denver or Los Angeles. So, every fire department is a little bit different. So you've got to kind of do your research. But it is true, especially in this industry, that you really start off. It's not at the bottom. I don't really believe in hierarchies per se, but you start off as a line firefighter, EMT, after doing for us, it's a 20-week academy where we teach you the basics and you get tested and tried and
Mhm.
certified in firefighter one and firefighter two. You get some hazmat operations training. So you kind of get this base level, these foundational skills, and then you show up and you're a firefighter EMT. Well, now you're doing base level work on a fire engine. You're pulling hose. You are catching fire hydrants. You're learning how to maneuver ladders, do searches inside buildings and environments that you can't see in. You're responding to traffic accidents, learning how to use the equipment to extricate people out of cars. You're doing
Mhm.
these base level hands-on skills and the execution of these skills. We do lots of medical response. About 75%, at least here in Colorado Springs, of our calls are medical. And that statistic uh, fluctuates a little across the country, but because we have a really good workforce distributed kind of equally across the city, it makes sense that firefighters go to a whole lot of different types of emergencies.
Mhm.
So uh, I started off that way. I also learned how to drive the apparatus. I did that in kind of um, it's called a relief driver mode, but basically it means that I got the skills of how to drive the equipment and have the lights and sirens sometimes, and sometimes not. Pump water, raise ladders, things like that. That was a couple years into my career. I became a paramedic, which was again extra training, about 18 months of extra training.
Mhm.
Uh, Many fire departments have paramedics, not all, but we do. We've had paramedics here in Colorado Springs since 1979.
Mhm.
Paramedics is a whole higher level of training. You can different procedures that you can do. You can put tubes down people's tracheas and breathe for them. You can shock the heart. You can give over 60 different medications. Uh, we just started a whole blood program here in Colorado Springs. So we give whole blood to patients, trauma patients out in the field. So anyway, I was a medic for many years, and then tested, kind of went through the promotional process and became a lieutenant. A lieutenant is kind of that first kind of level of working boss. You're still on a fire engine, but you're responsible and you lead that crew, and have the authority to make different decisions and begin the incident command process. Is this type of information helpful?
Yes, this is very great.
Great.
You think about people that are interested in a career, and this is very helpful to them. So tell us a little bit. We get an opportunity to interview a lot of individuals. Sometimes they're business owners,
Sure.
sometimes they're entrepreneurs, and they've seen success and they've seen failure. So what advice would you give a young person that might be a new firefighter,
Mm-hmm.
and there's something that happens, there's some obstacle that they need to overcome, there's an event that
Mm-hmm.
maybe was a challenge to them? How do you keep them motivated to keep moving forward?
Ooh, that's a good question. There's no doubt that any industry has its challenges, and especially taken over time, you will have, and on the fire department, you'll have experiences. You'll see things that that aren't necessarily terrific. You'll see child abuse, elder abuse. You'll see people involved in traffic accidents. And that's just one kind of type of trauma that you might see. So, in terms of what do you do, I think you've got to have good. You have to have a couple mentors within the department. I think having kind of seeking out a senior person, and by senior I mean just someone. They don't have to be, you know, as old as I am, but someone who's got a little bit more time in the job and experience that you can. They will offer to be a sounding board for you.
Hmm.
I think one of the things within our industry is being aware of your mental health and taking advantage of the different resources available so that when you do see traumatic things over time, instead of ruminating about those things, or potentially using negative coping strategies, seek some mental health for some of that mental health expertise, seek some of that for some of the things that you might see and be
Hmm.
a part of. I think that's a very natural. It's not unlike, being a combat veteran. I mean, we're not out there in combat, so to speak, but we do see a lot of trauma, gunshot, stabbings, fights, like I said, child abuse, elder abuse. And those are the bad things. We see plenty of really great things too, but you've got to use the resources that are available, and good mentors, I think, and good positive kind of coping strategies, um, to maintain kind of an even keel through your career.
Hmm.
Um, so that's just one little facet, right? Keeping your mind right. I think keeping um, having a physical outlet, again, recognition that we make our jobs by the physicality that we bring to a scene generally, and the ability to move, carry, lift, and deploy equipment. So you've got to stay up on that too, and that's also good for your mental health, maintaining your physical health. I
Sure.
think having the mindset of being a learner, you know, um, and that's why I like a mid-sized fire department, which I would say we are. It can be nice because you can do a lot of different things over a span of time. You can be that firefighter EMT. You could become a paramedic. You can go drive, and all those entail new skill acquisition, studying, new experiences. You can step into leadership, a formal leadership role like lieutenant or captain or battalion chief. And when you work for an organization that has some horizontal and vertical movement, I think that helps keep your career fresh and gives you the opportunity to continue learning and continue contributing in different ways.
Hmm. So, um, going back to applying for a firefighter, Tell us a little bit about the education requirements. I know you have a bachelor's degree. Is that something that every firefighter has, or is it necessary?
That's a really good question. I would say you and I have both witnessed a change in the last 10 or 15 years uh, regarding the emphasis that's put on higher education. I think higher education is important. I think it gives you the opportunity, uh, to kind of learn how to learn, not what to learn, but how to learn and
Mhm.
how to approach looking at complex information. Um, I'm very fortunate that I feel I'm fortunate that I went to college first, but certainly my liberal arts degree in psychology was not a requisite that I needed to apply for the fire department. I have found the skills that came from that, the critical thinking, the writing, um, adaptive learning, things like that came out of that experience at CC, I have found helpful, but it's not necessary when you're talking about applying for the fire department. There is absolutely, um, once you get on the fire department, uh, there are baseline minimums, and I'm speaking specifically for my department of associate's degrees and bachelor's degrees for certain levels of vertical promotions.
Mhm.
But to actually apply, it is not more than being a United States citizen, being a graduate of high school,
Mhm.
uh, having a driver's license. I mean, there's some bare minimums, and certainly to get your foot in the door to take the test and begin the process, and then from there, having experiences, maybe having prior experience as an EMT, things like that will help inform you and help you be a better candidate as you present yourself through the process. But it's not like you've got to have a bachelor's or a master's degree just to apply.
Okay, all right. To advance within the firefighter community, then there are more education requirements.
There are, yep, and
Okay,
that is also dependent fire department to fire department.
okay.
But in the last since I've made this my career and started, um, there's been a push pull. There's a push for higher education and kind of standard curriculum modeling and programming. Uh, and there's also then kind of the tug back of, yeah, but that's not necessarily necessary. It's kind of a push pull, which is kind of
Sure.
interesting. But again, I think the ones that are you talked about earlier, one of the questions about what do I think uh, gives folks a higher level of success or the potential for success. And I think having a learner's mindset, I think college is important. I think we certainly have um, many members who have master's degrees, like a master's in public administration
Mhm.
is a great example, or maybe a master's in organizational leadership. So, as at some point when you matriculate through the organization, those things can be helpful doing in-depth studies because as you move from being that frontline firefighter EMT and you kind of move through and you get older and you want to be you want to contribute more within the department, maybe you want to take some more leadership roles, the understanding of project management, leadership, people, um, really becomes important. Budgets, not sexy, but budgets, how to work within the framework of your municipality for funding, and politics plays a role, relationships, public speaking. So there's a whole bunch of kind of different avenues that you can
Yeah,
expand into that are way outside of, the focus of being a master of your craft.
right.
Well, craft of firefighting, which there's a
So
lot.
tell us, Jess, what do you consider, what are some of the most important rewards of being a firefighter and what are the challenges?
Wow. That's a great question. If you were someone interested in becoming a firefighter and you were visiting maybe some stations uh, in a city that you were thinking about working in, that would be a great question to ask almost any person that's working out at a fire station. Um, I've always said that my goal every day is to have a positive impact on people's lives. So I think about the opportunity every day I go on shift, which tomorrow I will go back on duty. I've been off for a couple days, and tomorrow I will start a 24-hour tour of duty at 8 in the morning. And my goal will be to have a positive impact. Now, I don't do that necessarily by running the calls like I used to, and actually rendering medical care or pulling a hose line, but I now kind of lead and manage, a team of, 50 firefighters across 7 stations, my part of the city. And my goal is to make sure they have what they need physically and psychologically, so that they can go out and have a great shift and do good work, for the citizens. Um, so I would say that is a positive. That is something I look forward to. I would say, some of the battle scars of what we do. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, which is in one way exciting, and on the other hand, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know if we're going to have a fire at the power plant. I don't know if we're going to have a large mass casualty incident. I don't know if we're going to have, a big chlorine leak at a chemical facility. And those things are stressful events. And then, whether your role is to respond to it like a line firefighter, or if you're responding as a battalion, it's actually a battalion chief like myself. Then I'm the incident commander, and that's a lot of stress to set those structures up and carry that event all the way through. Uh,
Mhm.
and that can just be stressful. That's a stress that kind of weighs on you, and don't know if it's going to happen or not, but we'll see tomorrow. So that would be a negative, not a negative, but that would be the kind of stress that you have to, you know, use positive coping strategies, good physical fitness, and
Sure.
things like that to.
Oh, you're put in life and death situations. So that can be very stressful. So what would you say, you've been around a lot of very successful firefighters, both in the as leaders, um, organizational leaders, but also frontline leaders.
Mhm.
What do you think are the characteristics of the most successful firefighters you've seen?
I think you have to, uh, over time, throughout your career, you have to continue to care about what you're doing and care about the people that you're doing it with. And I know that kind of can sound kind of woo woo, but we're working with people. We're working with first responders who are a well-trained team of people that their job is to go out and respond to all manner of things. And you have to recognize you're working with people that have lives at home. They have things going on in their worlds too. So you have to provide, I think, to the best that you can, a safe space, kind of psychologically, to come to work, uh, remove any choke points or hurdles that maybe sometimes bureaucracies or admins can put in place, so that those people can go out and execute those skills and do that work. You have to care, and you have to do it
Okay.
over a
I
long
like
period
that.
of time. Yeah.
I like that, Jess. You have to care. So, what trends are impacting the um,
Ooh,
your career now?
that's interesting. I think, there's within the industry, um, there are many periodicals, uh, online journals, paper journals. There's tons of organizations that supply research and things like that into the fire service. I think right now one of the things that comes up in almost every conversation is recruitment and retention. And I would say whether it's coming into the fire service or even law enforcement, uh, recruitment and retention. I think getting the word out to the kind of the next generation, about the positives of being involved in this type of service work. Um, and I would even say the really great things, but also the pieces that you have to be aware of. I'll just say downsides or the challenges of doing shift work and working in the types of environments we work in, hot, smoky, things like that. We need to find a way to really capture the next generation's heart to bring them in, um, and then bring them in and start handing the organizations over to them, because as I've probably got 8 years left, like a few other folks on our fire department, but really, the fire department belongs to the next generation. I'm helping to lead and mentor as we move forward, but in 8 years I'll retire, and I've got to prepare that next set of leaders. So recruitment, retention, holding on to people, and then I would say kind of talent development within your organization. That's always an ongoing challenge, especially
Mhm.
just making the time, money, and effort available for that type of development, so that again, when your time in the organization is done, hopefully you've left it a little better than you found it, but you're turning it over to that next uh, set of people who are going to then take it even further, and make it an even better place to do the best service, right, for the
I
people.
I like that, right? That's how we give back to our profession, is preparing the next generation. So
Absolutely.
so Jeff, if you have somebody that's interested in they're a young adult and now they're interested in exploring a career as a firefighter, um, what's your recommendations? What's the next steps that they should take?
I think wherever somebody is, and I think from doing a little research from the website, the work that your organization does looks at folks between 16 and 35. Wow, broad, very broad.
Hmm.
That's terrific. Start looking, get on the website for the municipality, the local government that you, or the county government where you reside, and look up public safety. Most will have very outward facing websites that will talk about what what the employment process looks like for that department. They will also offer typically the ability to go do a ride along, to actually go. I call it prototyping. I think this is good for anyone to do when you're looking at getting into a new career or just a career. Go prototype it, and that would be an avenue. Those
Hmm.
websites, that information about your local municipality, is a great way to kind of get your foot in the door, and uh, have 5 to 10 questions that you ask a lot of different people. I know for me, I when I was back in 1991, when I was looking at the fire service, I would borrow a friend's car, drive to the fire station, knock on the door, and just tell them I was interested, and could I talk to them just a little bit about what they did. What did they like about it? What do you not like about it? What's the best thing about the fire department? What
Hmm.
does the day look like while you're on duty? I never asked anything about pay or benefits. I wasn't smart enough to do that, but that's probably an okay thing to ask about too. Um, I would ask the young people, or the younger people like myself, hey, do you like what you do? I'd ask the 30-year lieutenant, sir, do you still enjoy what you do? And I think one of the things that really struck me, as I look back on those experiences, is they all said that they loved what they did. So get out and prototype, and get out and ask questions about the career you think you might be interested in. Do that research on the internet, I think, and then certainly from there, start building some contacts.
Hmm.
Hey, go to that fire station, go to that, police headquarters if you're thinking law enforcement, and ask about ride-alongs, and experience what they do. Ask about what the educational and training requirements are for that. Ask what a day in the life looks like. Don't be afraid to ask. There's no stupid questions.
Right. I always say it's very nice if you do your research ahead of time, then you can ask intelligent questions, and
That's, yeah.
that'll really impress them more. So
Yep.
um, so networking, it sounds like, knock on that door of the fire station, get to know some of the people there, and I'm sure that they can help you along through a process if they see that you're really interested. So
Hmm.
networking is that Is that big in firefighting?
I think that's I think every job, and ultimately the career that I'm in probably came from networking that started just with basic conversations and showing honest interest. So yeah, I would absolutely say it's integral. You can't stay in your house and network. You've got to be out, be willing to talk to people. If you're looking to do a career where you engage and talk to people, which firefighting is one of those things. We go out and help people. So
Right.
no, I think that's huge. I think I hate to, thinking about here in Colorado Springs, there's a community college which supports both a fire science degree program as well as an emergency medical services department. So I would point folks to the direction of their local community, excuse me, community colleges. Those can be great resources um, for some of that type of programming. And a lot of the people that work in those at those community colleges are firefighters, officers, local paramedics that work in your community that also work at the community college. That's a great way to get plugged in as well uh, to some of the networking opportunities and start learning about the hiring processes and preparing for those.
Sure. Well, just to kind of wrap up this interview, it sounds like know a little bit about your family, your the things that you like to do, and it sounds like you're very engaged not only in your career but also in life. And so, tell me, is there any other career or just life advice that you would like to leave with young adults?
Whew. I would say and I'm in my head, I'm thinking about the kind of the younger spectrum. Someone who's just about to wrap up high school and thinking about what they want to do.
Hmm.
Think about the things that you enjoy doing. You don't have to be radically passionate, but things that you enjoy doing. What do you gravitate towards? And whatever that may be, kind of pursue that a little bit. I would say if you're on the older spectrum, from some of the I'm going to say population that this video might reach. If you're 32 and you have done this educational path, or you've done a trades path and it's not fitting for you, have the courage to explore other options. That's not too late. It's not too late at all. Many fire departments, many um, accept recruits up into their mid 30s. Okay, you have to be at least 18, but up into your mid 30s.
Hmm.
We even had a firefighter who turned 50 in the fire academy, and the same is true for law enforcement as well. So don't
Yeah.
be afraid to check things out and check other opportunities out if where you are is not working for you.
Right.
Life is too short to, I think, my opinion, life is too short to have a job or a career that you don't find satisfaction in generally.
So you mentioned that our age range is 16 to 35, and that the 16-year-old, the 17-year-old, up to the 20, they're just kind of trying to figure it out, and they may want to do this exploration to decide what type of formal education they want to go into. But then
Sure.
you get those that have completed their degrees, or their uh, just their education, and now they're ready to begin that career. So it's a
Hmm.
little bit different. Then they're really interested in the career coaching and moving on.
Sure.
So Jess, I just want to thank you for taking the time that you have today to offer career advice to those that are interested in a career as a firefighter. I'll say, to wrap up the video, we'd like to remind our viewers that they can either reach out to on their own to seasoned professionals like Jess to schedule an informational interview, or they can ask for an introduction to a professional from someone that they know. To prepare for informational interviews, we recommend that you watch the video on the website titled Conducting Informational Interviews. Jess, thanks again for your time today, and I hope you have a terrific rest of your day.
I appreciate the honor of being here and talking with you, Scott, and sharing, hopefully, with your audience, just the passion that I have for the industry that I've been so fortunate to be a part of. And just thank you very much. I hope it's been worthwhile.
Thanks.